what's crack-a-lackin' literary geeks? Happy Tuesday. In short, I'm a mess, and I really didn't have time nor brain power to plan a video this last couple weeks, so I thought that I would just talk about myself. I might be able to squeak this video in under the guise that it's totally a Nano thing. Like, in the middle of Nano, when you have no idea what to write anymore, here's a trope that you might want to incorporate. It's like a thin disguise, but if you, like, back away from it far enough and squint, can make it work, you know? A little while ago I wrote down a list of some of my favorite tropes just to kind of like get it out of my brain, and now it's actually quite a long list, and a lot of these things come up again and again in my favorite books, so if you need, for some reason, to write a book that I love, you can incorporate some of these. Trope me up, baby! Alright, let's start. These are also in no particular order, but the first one I'm going to talk about is the orphan child raised into glory. I don't know what it is, I just love me a street rat child raised up into a form of royalty. Maybe they're like a lost heir. Maybe they, like MacGyver their way into a castle and then get taken by mistake. Maybe they need to masquerade as somebody. Maybe they're not even like an orphan. Maybe they're just like a, I don't know, kitchen maid or something, and then they have to be disguised as a princess. That kind of thing gets me. Maybe it's a magic-related thing. Maybe they get saved by chance. Whatever it is, it's kind of like Chosen One adjacent. I think that's why I like it so much. I think I like this more because the stakes are a little higher, because it's not just, oh, they're doing that thing and they got away with that thing because they're the chosen one. Like, no, it's because you need to stay in disguise or go back to your humble beginnings, and I love it. I love it so much. I don't know why. I grew up in a fairly middle-class, loving family in Canada, so I don't know where that comes from, but I just love it. Going along with that, lost heir. Ooh, gets me every time. Preferably if, like, they're the one that's traveling in the group that's, like, on the quest to go find the lost heir, or they, like, find them and they don't want to be the heir, but they've spent so much time trying to go find, think like Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, like that kind of thing. That's fun. Next up, found family. Oh! Classic! I just love a ragtag band of heroes that all come together for various reasons that end up falling in love with each other and just being this amazing family core. It's so great. For some reason, I prefer this trend trope when it happens in space. I don't know why. I mean, I love me a good fantasy adventure crew, but for some reason, just having a space crew found family makes it so much better. Maybe it's like the gravitational pull of their love makes them fall together in the vastness of space. I don't know. Going along with sci-fi, even though I don't read a lot of it, if a book has a sassy AI, ooh, I am buying that. I just love a benevolent robot that's like sort of friends with our main protagonist. They can help with the tech stuff, they can be a voice of reason, they can be like the trickster, jokester without actually having to have a body. They can conveniently go and see things that people can't see or go through. So like having an AI character is like exploiting a loophole when it comes to where your characters can go and what they can see. Plus I'm just a sucker for one-liners, so I don't really care if it's like an elf spitting these out or an AI. Next up, fairy magic. That is no surprise to anybody who has watched this channel for more than like 8.93 seconds. Fairy lore just has a special place in my cold, black, bitter heart. I loved fairy tales growing up. I loved especially the Grimm's fairy tales, like the creepy fairy tales, or like the not happy endings. I think it has to do with the fact that it's kind of like they're close to us, but they're also completely other. And the combination of the natural with the unnatural while still staying within nature boundaries. Like, I love when characters are described as having fully black eyes, like insects, or having like extra joints in their fingers, or actually being trees. Going along with my favorite kinds of magic, bone magic. No surprise there. If a character is described as being able to pull magic or use teeth, bones, ashes, oh my god, I want to say something inappropriate, but we're trying to keep this channel somewhat family friendly, but oh man, you can bet there's an expletive in the sentence of like, I really love that, everything. Again, don't know why. I did have orthodontics as a child, but it wasn't traumatic, and I've never broken a bone, knock on wood. So I don't know why I'm so obsessed with that, but I love books that involve bone and teeth magic. So much. Alright, now is something that, I mean, in theory, great idea. In practice, terrifying. And that is Sentient Libraries. I say good in theory because when you think about that, you're like, oh my god, books have their own stories, so they're like living their own stories and they're actually alive and they can like experience things like you experience their stories and like, oh my heart. But then in practice, terrifying, because if every one of these books had a voice, first of all, very loud, probably be unable to sleep. Second of all, do you know how many murders happen within these pages? That would not be good. They might be sentient, but they're certainly not sweet. Or what would books do if they gained sentience? Could they fly? They can't, they don't have legs or arms, but they might be able to like flap themselves around, and that's just like paper cuts from the sky. Sounds terrible. And lastly, as like types of scenes or like types of interactions, if this book has a balcony kissing scene, I want it. I probably have already read it. I've probably already written it 3 times, but I still want it. I guess that's the small romantic part of me that's like, ooh, I just want to be in a beautiful dress on a balcony with stars overhead and like slow dance to some really pretty classical harp music with a hot guy who may or may not be magical, who may or may not be a prince. Doesn't even have to be a guy, honestly, just like anybody. And like, yeah, I could make that actually come true because I do currently have a partner and I do currently have many beautiful ball gowns because I like to accumulate fancy clothing but never actually wear it anywhere. And it's starting to go into winter, which means we're gonna have some clearer skies and really nice star constellations. However, anywhere that I could do that in Vancouver is freaking expensive. And I am a broke, flat broke college student. Bonus points if it's a masquerade. Bonus points if it's like a love triangle situation and the person that's doing the kissing and the other person thinks it's the other person because everyone's wearing masks and no one can tell, or it's like a murderer, or it's just somebody that she thinks is somebody else but it isn't. I gotta get on writing that. And the final parts of this video are gonna talk about character related things because your girl loves a good enemies to lovers relationship. See, it's tricky to do, and this is why I say I really like it, but it's really hard to find because a lot of times when people hear enemies to lovers, they think that that means 2 people who are extremely rude to each other suddenly start kissing, and that's not it. It's more of a tension thing, it's more of a sarcasm thing rather than being outright mean, and it usually revolves around a misunderstanding or something in the past that that person is working through to forgive the other person. It does not mean being physically or emotionally abusive to that person and then kissing them and then everything's great. That's not how that works. And adjacent to that is the thing where, this isn't really a trope, this is just, is it a trope? I don't know, it's just like a thing that happens in books, particularly those that are fantasy, particularly those fantasy books that have the enemies to lovers, is where you have 2 characters who only call each other by nicknames or maybe last names, and they do that for the entire book or the entire series except for when one of them gets hurt or like is dying or they're on a battlefield and the other person sees the other person from across the way and suddenly they scream that person's real name. Ah! God, scenes like that are so telling, and that's why I like them, because that is the way to show an enemies to lovers. That is the way to show an enemies to friends, is to really show how that original like blockade of like not wanting to become too close or intimate with that person, and then suddenly you just shoot over that to the real name and like showing that you care about that person, and it's like, yeah, you do care. Yes, I see it, I see it. And lastly, the character trope that I absolutely love to death is a soft boy TM male love interest. Especially growing up reading YA, there were so many bad boys and rude guys, and I don't find those kinds of people attractive. Like, it doesn't matter if they have light hair or dark hair or are super tall, whatever, I don't care. If their jawline is sharp enough to grate cheese on, that's great. But also I'm lactose intolerant, and if you're mean to me, you can take that amazing jawline the other way. I think reading those things when I was at a formative age in my life, especially coming up to and through puberty and kind of starting the dating scene in my like late teens, expecting a boy to be mean to me or to like make fun of me, I was trying to find that, when in reality you shouldn't. If you like somebody, you're gonna be nice to them and respect them, hopefully. So I love it when I see a realistic depiction of just a nice, soft boy who, like, actually wants to support the main character and is there for her and is nice to her, and, like, sure, they can get into a tiff now and then, but for the most part, like, they genuinely like each other. I love that. It's just so realistic, and also, like, so sweet, and just, ooh, sign me up, add that to the cart. Alright, been going for a while here. So there you have it. There's a big video list of a bunch of my favorite tropes, and, I mean, if you looked at my bookshelves, I can already be like, bone magic, nice guy protagonist, ballroom scene over there, lost heir also over there, more bone magic over there, found family in space. Make sure to leave down below some of your favorite tropes, or maybe even, because it's NaNoWriMo, what kind of trope that you're currently writing. There's a lot of writing advice that says stay away from tropes and don't do them because they're so overdone. But in reality, you can't technically write a book without falling into some kind of trope, and tropes are popular for a reason. It's because people like them. How many books do I have on bone magic? A lot. Pull in as many tropes as you want, because it doesn't really matter who's writing them. The trope is going to be different for every single book, regardless as if they share some common threads. Join us at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time here on Sunday for our live chat, and because this is Nano, we are having more chats this week. However, I am on Pacific Standard Time, not Eastern Standard Time, and I'm pretty sure I wrote down the write-ins on Pacific Standard Time, so just check out any of our Twitters or Instagrams, the links are down below, to see what our full Nano list of write-ins is. There's gonna be a lot. We're gonna get those words down, maybe even tropey words. Happy writing, and I'll see you next week. Bye!